Rangers, forest workers, hunters, and other woods people, what is your scary experience in the woods that you still can't explain? We have a camp that we visit during the hunting months and about every other weekend in between. To get to our camp, you have to turn off of a major road onto a gravel road, drive about a mile, then turn onto another gravel road for about half a mile. It's set between a few other camps, plus some residents that live out there. It's quiet, for the most part. There are some coyotes and bobcats. Bobcats are the worst due to their terrible scream. It sounds like a woman crying for help. There has also been a black panther and wild dogs. In 2013 we were at the camp for Thanksgiving. We hunted, fished, cooked, drank, and did all that good camp stuff. One night, we're sitting around a fire, swapping funny stories and just listening to the silence of the woods. As we're talking, we all hear, "Help me." At first, we thought it was a bobcat. We listened some more and heard it again. It was a man's voice yelling "Help me" repeatedly. Now, our first instinct was to grab our guns. Second was to go towards the voice, but you never know what you will encounter in the woods. It was dark and cold. The hunters knew the area very well. We called the police and explained everything to the responding officers. The weird part was that we never once heard it while the officers were with us. Not once. The officers left, and we heard the man again, repeating, "Help me." About half an hour later, the officers came back, and we didn't hear any call for help. Again, silence. We all decided it was best to go inside our camp for the night. We never did find out anything. I've only been back to the camp once since then. Really freaked me out. I've lived in the Smokies most of my life. Anywhere I've lived in the Smokies, I've been completely surrounded by woods, naturally. One night at like 1 a.m. I was sitting on my porch drinking a beer. If you haven't lived out here, during the summertime, nature is loud. It isn't quiet. Cicadas humming, frogs belching, etc. It's like the ultimate white noise. While I was drinking my beer, I noticed that everything in the woods had gone quiet. Which is pretty easy to notice when you live here because that doesn't happen. Suddenly, I heard the most terrifying noise I had ever heard about. I think maybe a good 30 or 40 meters away from me. It was a loud, shrieking, literally blood-curdling scream, like shrill. It sounded non-human. It wasn't a mountain lion because I've heard them before, and they're rare in the area I lived in. I stood up, audibly said nope, and walked the fuck inside. That was the one and only time that ever happened. I still live in the same house and still drink the same beer on the same porch. I've lived in the high desert for most of my life, 6,000 above sea level if you're wondering. I was out riding my horse alone in the absolute middle of BFE in the Badlands, no trees and hardly any brush to speak of, so sounds carry a long way and there is nowhere to hide for long, when all of a sudden his ears perked up. I feel my skin start to crawl like we're being watched. My normally mellow gelding starts to panic. I start to feel really dizzy, and my horse stumbles. I black out. I come to an hour or so later, about 3 miles away from the inciting incident, still on my horse. He is frothing with sweat and shaking all over. I'm still not sure what happened. I had plenty of water and snacks. It was 65-ish degrees and breezy, so I don't believe weather or dehydration/hunger was a factor. I have never before or after had a fainting spell, and that was the most reliable, quiet horse I've ever owned. I now have a serious case of the heebie-jeebies again just thinking about it. Not my story, but my younger sister's, early 20s. She was in Colorado last year and went hiking with her friend. The plan was to hike up the mountain, stop midway and camp, then finish the hike the next morning. They started their hike and stopped for camp midway. She said it started dumping rain that night, which meant the top would most likely be snow. The next morning they continued their hike, but it started getting complicated. Her friend only wore Chaco sandals and not proper hiking boots, as they didn't expect the snow. They stopped at a creek and were deciding if they wanted to turn back on account of not being prepared properly when they heard a faint "help me." They both stood still. They heard it again. They decided to follow up the creek to the woman's voice. They got to a clearing that was covered in snow and found a woman lying in it in basic athletic clothing, leggings, a light pullover jacket, and athletic shoes. My sister said her legs were swollen and discolored and had nasty cuts on them. My sister asked her how long she had been out there, and the woman said only a few hours. My sister was like, "Okay, we need to get you down this mountain." The woman was like, "No, I need to go up the mountain, that's where my car is parked." My sister was like, "No, there is no driving access at the top of the mountain," which was a sign that this woman was confused. They got her down the mountain, and my sister just kept saying how confused this woman was. They get to the bottom, and they find this woman's car. My sister couldn't get cell service to call 911 during this, BTW. Anyways, my sister tells this woman she's going to drive her to the hospital, but the woman is standing strong that she would just like to go back to her bed and breakfast. My sister takes her there while driving this woman's car. Once the woman is at the bed and breakfast, she thanks them and goes in. My sister spoke to the owners and was like, "You have to call a medic, she is severely confused and not acting normal." They call a medic and transport her to a hospital. Turns out this woman is from Chicago, has low blood pressure, and it was her first time ever hiking a mountain. She was also alone. She had passed out during her hike, and then it dumped snow on her. She was hypothermic and only thought she'd been out for a few hours. She was out overnight in the dark, cold, and alone. I couldn't imagine the terror she must have felt. Anyways, my sister went and saw her at the hospital, and the woman thanked her for saving her life. They still lightly keep in touch. Not my story, but my dad's. When my dad was in his 20s, he was staying with my mom at a small cabin in the woods of Colorado. It was fairly remote. There was another cabin about a mile away and a campground maybe 3 miles down the valley. Late one afternoon, he was out fishing on a nearby river by himself. As the lights started fading, he decided to call it a day and head back to the cabin for dinner. As he was walking back through the woods, he got an eerie feeling that he was being watched, but he couldn't see anyone or anything. He kept walking back, and then suddenly he heard a stick break behind him. He stopped, looking back for the source of the sound, but still didn't see anything. He nervously kept walking back, a little quicker, and then heard another stick break, whirled around, and still, nothing. This happened like 3 or 4 times, but every time he stopped to listen and look, there was total silence and nothing else moving. By the time he finally made it back to the cabin, it was nearly dark. He never did find out what was following him, but whatever it was left him alone after that. His best guess was a mountain lion stalking him or something. Really unsettling, though. I was driving from Tucson to Denver in the middle of the night. Got tired, pulled off, and crawled in a sleeping bag in the desert far away from the 2-lane blacktop I was on, Highway 666, BTW. It's since been renamed because everybody was stealing the signs. Anyway, pull off the road onto a dirt road and then a little further. Kind of hid the truck behind some vegetation and tossed down a sleeping bar and pad in the middle of a pitch black, huge star New Mexico night. No one around, no light, nothing at all. Visibility for miles. I'm completely fucking alone in pitch black nothing and getting wound down, my eyes are getting droopy. Then I hear it. It sounds goofy to say, but it's the same Indian music you'd hear in old black and white westerns. Native music, voices, and a drum. I literally think I'm dreaming, and when it starts, I'm fucking petrified because that noise just appearing out of nothing simply put ice in my veins. Relax a little and unfreeze, and try to be logical about what I'm hearing, which has no physical manifestation of its origin. So, thinking logically, now instead of pure panic. I could be on the reservation at this point. Perhaps it's coming from behind a previously unseen hill. I get up and look around. I don't see anything at all. It kind of comes and goes in volume. Doesn't seem to be coming from a direction. I have no clue. I looked for evidence and didn't find any. Crawled back in the bag because I'd been driving for hours, and they sang all night. Logic tells me it had to be a group of people I didn't see. But I looked, and there were no ancillary noises like talking or stopping or anything. Just that Indian drum. And the hi-ya-hi-ya. What was originally terrifying became calming, and I ended up sleeping fantastically. Later learned that was a terrible stretch of road for very bad things to happen. It sort of lived up to its 666 moniker for wrecks and bad shit occurring, apparently. A kind of creepy thing happened to me when I was a student forester this summer. So, the forest I was working in was about 20 kilometers from the nearest town, which contained around 1,200 people, and we usually set out for whatever task we had to do in the forest at around 7 a.m. So we are at the forest at around 7:30 a.m., and we are about 12 kilometers up the road when we turn a corner very slowly and see what I initially thought to be a weird-looking bush or statue, but it was in fact a person sitting on a carved-out stump on the side of the road, just sitting there. What really threw me off was the fact that this person had a parka on and a balaclava underneath it in the middle of summer. We drove by this person real slow, and he lifted a hand to wave slowly as we drove past, and it was just super creepy. Never saw them again after that, but it did make going out on excursions a little more uneasy sometimes when alone. Buckle in for a long one. TLDR at the bottom. When I was 6, my babysitter was this nice middle-aged lady and her equally nice husband. My twin brother and I were always at their house in the summer, and we hung out with the couple's 2 grandkids, another boy and girl sibling set of similar ages. This was literally my happy place. This lady had the best movie collection for a 6-year-old. It is where I saw The Last Unicorn for the first time, as well as The Little Mermaid, The Great Mouse Detective, The First Land Before Time, and The Brave Little Toaster. And her husband was a phenomenal cook by a kid's standard. Every day was chicken nuggets and pizza day. They had kid-size 4-wheelers, a pool, and a huge kids' playhouse and jungle gym set up in the backyard. And they put on the best 4th of July show in the county for years. 6-year-old me was the happiest girl on the freaking planet. They were some of the wealthiest people in our area too. Neither one of them worked, so I have no idea where the money came from, but I didn't care. One day, midsummer, the 2 boys were being typical boys, and the little girl and I thought they were being mean. In reality, the boys wanted to play war or something, and the girls wanted to play wedding. Or something similarly stupid. Whatever. She and I were sad, and we refused to play with the boys. Instead, we decided to go pick flowers that grew at the edge of the forest. We thought it was baby's breath, but it was really just poison hemlock, seriously. Kids, right? So we are walking along the edge of this dense forest in the middle of Banjo Country in southern Ohio. This was in 1990, so we weren't worried about stranger danger because we were just so far out in the country. The adults did worry about animals from time to time because the next county over has bears and mountain lions, but we 6-year-olds were fearless. We ended up walking onto the neighbor's property and picking these flowers when we found a break in the tree line. It was an old, well-worn path leading into the woods. For whatever reason, i.e., we were dumb, she and I decided to ditch our flowers and take the path in the woods and see what it led to. The path itself was unremarkable. Well-worn but unmaintained, as there were tree roots growing up through the path in places. We came upon a little bridge at one point. We were both a little confused about it because we had been told there were no creeks in our area, yet here was a bridge. It wasn't a particularly old bridge either. But the creek bed under it was dry as a bone. Weird. We kept going because. Why not, I guess. I'm not sure how far we walked beyond the bridge, but we ended up in a clearing with stones all around it in a circle. The clearing was big enough that there was a gap in the trees that allowed the sunlight in. And in the middle of the circle was a massive stone-walled well. It was big enough that there were stairs built into the dam walls in a huge spiral. My little friend was mesmerized by the well. She found a rock and tossed it in. We never heard it hit the bottom. As we were searching for more rocks to throw in, I was rooting around in the brush by the bigger stones and actually looked at the big ones. These were not normal stones. Nope. I was a smart cookie, already reading at a 3rd grade level the summer before 1st grade, something I loved to show off to anyone that would sit still for 3 seconds or more, so I could read the stupid stones. There were names and dates cut into rough-hewn stone. We were in a fucking graveyard. In the middle of the woods. Far away from our adults. I remember getting chills realizing this. Moments later, my little friend got really quiet and poked me. She pointed to the edge of the clearing on the other side of the well. Thankfully, not the side that we had entered the graveyard on. My little heart would have exploded, I think. She was pointing at a dark shape standing just inside the woods facing us. We both stood up very slowly and stared at this dark shape. At some point, the little girl took my hand and tried to get me to leave, but I couldn't move. The fear was paralyzing. It didn't move until the clouds covered the sun, and our bright, inviting clearing became slightly shadowy. Then, the shape moved. It was an adult-shaped /sized thing wearing long dark robes with a hood over its face. We were stupid kids, but we weren't that fucking stupid. We both turned tail and ran as fast as our little legs allowed. My friend was faster than me because I was a chunker, a kid with a love of reading and movies and pizza is overweight, who would have thunk it? So she made it to the bridge first. I wasn't far behind her though. I looked back after we got over the bridge, and that asshole was standing at the edge of the bridge. Just standing there. I screamed, pissed myself, and kept running. I tripped over a tree root in the path, ripping my pants and shredding my knee in the process. I scrambled up and kept running. We burst out of the trees like our hair was on fire, screaming and crying, and made a beeline for the girl's grandparents' house. Her grandfather was in the backyard planning something and came running when he heard us. We were absolutely hysterical, and nothing could calm us down. We spent hours sobbing while the grandma and grandpa got us bathed and in clean clothes and tried to soothe us. The more they said there was no one in the woods, the more hysterical we became. It took both of us months before we'd even go onto the back deck again. Everyone was convinced we made up the story with our hyperactive imaginations, but the adults humored us. The kids, not so much. The next summer, We were forced into the backyard for the annual 4th of July party. Tons of kids. They all knew our story, and one of the teenage boys, a badass, don't you know, called bullshit. He bullied us for hours until we told him where the path in the woods was. And then he made us go with him. Cue another incident of me pissing my pants. Yay! To my utter relief, when we got to where she and I both remembered the path being, there was nothing. No path. Just a very heavy growth of hemlock. He tried to wade through it and ended up with chiggers from neck to foot. And he got in a ton of trouble for dragging us kids down there once we got back. So she and I were relieved not to go back, but from then on, all those kids thought we were stone cold liars. Fast forward 15 years later, 16 years after this all happened, my mom mentioned that the grandpa passed away a few months prior while I was off to school. I was 22 at that point and had mostly forgotten the events in the woods. I expressed my condolences and asked what happened. I mean, this guy was a friend of my mom's for 20 plus years. My mom started being evasive, so I got curious and pressed her. She said that he had hung himself in their garage. Jesus. Wow, okay. That sucks. And then she told me the bad part. His granddaughter, my little friend, was the one that found his body. All around him were notebooks with crazy person writings that he had amassed over a very long time, some dating back to the early 70s apparently, detailing his dealings with demons and spirits and other crazy things. He had left notes for all of his loved ones. The note for his granddaughter was an apology for not protecting her from the demon at the well. And the note for his wife was an apology for leaving her, as it was the only way to protect her and the other people he loved. It seems that the explanation for their wealth was deals struck with the demons. After a few decades of these deals, they had started coming to collect on the debts the old man owed, and what they wanted was for him to kill his family in payment, so he killed himself instead. It was the craziest thing I had ever heard, but it made total fucking sense. Everyone wrote the guy off as having a serious mental health issue. They threw the journals away, buried him, and moved on. No investigations. Nothing. I can rationalize everything we saw and experienced as some kind of weird psychological reaction to picking hemlock. That wouldn't explain how both of us had the exact same delusion, though. I know what I saw was real. I might not remember all the details nearly 30 years after the fact, but I remember the fear. And I still have a scar on my knee that has never faded. I'm not afraid of the woods or the dark or anything. But I have a very healthy respect for the dead, and I don't fuck with demon shit. In the immortal words of Ducky, nope, nope, nope.